Starting. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Althea's June community call. We are super excited for this call. We have lots to talk about. And we're going to be talking with our organizers from our Althea hood in the Hilltop neighborhood of Tacoma. And we'll also have some exciting updates and technical things to update. So we'll be talking about parallel connections, and Jehan will give us a recap on all things Cosmos related. So it's going to be a good chat. Just to get us started, I'm Liz. I work with Althea on all things digital and social media related. And let's just get started with the introductions. Justin, do you want to get us started?
Yeah, I'm Justin, CTO and admin of all the things.
Hi, I'm Deborah. I'm the COO, and I work with the community and on-ground deployments.
I'm Jehan. I'm CEO, and I also do random development and quasi-design stuff as necessary.
Awesome. Awesome. And our organizers from Hilltop, we have B and Anne. So welcome to them. Yay. And so just to get it started, how's it going in Hilltop, guys? Tell us a little bit about what you've got going on.
Well, we're reaching a lot of people. Just to give you kind of overview of what we've been doing.
And if you're trying to talk, you're muted, in case you were talking, FYI.
There she is. But yeah, we've taken a section of Tacoma that is a real diverse neighborhood that has a lot of need, and we've gone door to door talking to people about their internet access, and we've been getting a lot of good
Anne
feedback.
is having trouble unmuting, some kind of issue with Hangouts, is my guess.
Anne, can you test your volume really quickly?
Can you hear me?
Are you there? Yes,
yeah.
I can hear you.
Okay, yeah, I think I'm unmuted.
Okay, good. Okay, keep going. Also, tell us a little bit about yourself. I've got a little ahead, but do both. Tell us how it's going and about yourselves.
Sure. And just real quick, can you hear B okay? Because they were giving a little bit of background on the project in Hilltop.
Yes, we could.
Okay,
so
great.
B, you can keep going.
Okay.
I'm B. I've been organizing in, I've been organizing for over 10 years. In Tacoma, I've been organizing since 2012, working on various projects like we did a grocery program. We do a community outreach every week at a local a clinic. And now we've tackled this, okay, can anyone hear me?
Yeah, I hear you loud and clear, B.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks like Jehan's having technical problems, and and that's the reason why he's so confused. So
okay.
Have to ignore him and make large gestures for when it's his turn to speak.
So we came across Althea. Actually, I don't remember exactly how I bumped into Deborah, but we bumped into each other and talked about the need for a high quality, low cost internet, and that's an issue not just for rural communities. In cities like Tacoma and Seattle, there's an income barrier instead of just an infrastructure barrier. It's at their doorstep; they just can't get it. So we've been going door to door in Hilltop, which is just even a section of Hilltop. It's a high residential area of Hilltop, and there's a big need. Folks either are paying an exorbitant amount for internet access, or they're paying a smaller amount, but their quality of internet is really low or it's really slow. There's been a lot of good reactions to folks when we're going door to door in these neighborhoods. They're happy to hear that we're addressing an issue that is normally just thought of, well, that's how it is. And we're getting a good as big of an outreach as we're getting in person. We're getting even bigger a reaction online. I'd say for every one person we're getting in person, we're 5 are finding us online, and they're messaging us, they're leaving reviews about, hey, this is a grassroots internet co-op that is springing up. Forgive the bad pun, and people are loving us.
That's great. That's amazing to hear. So in this whole process, and I don't know, Anne, did you want to introduce yourself and add anything to that?
Well, I can certainly introduce myself. I think B summed it up just perfectly. I'm Anne. I live and work in Tacoma. Been a resident of the area for a number of years. Done a lot of volunteer work, feeding folks, that kind of thing. And I'm just personally really passionate about building a better world and a better communities. And I think we're stronger together. And so B mentioned the awesome reception we've gotten as we have connected with people, gone door to door and just announced this project and let people know, really fast, low cost internet is coming to your neighborhood, and it's going to be managed and, open to participation by the people who live here. And it's just been awesome. So that's a little bit about me. And then, I think B just said perfectly kind of where we're at and what's going on right now with the project.
Awesome. That's
I think you might be muted now.
Now I'm muted. I was muted. Can you got me now? I click it off and then it kind of clicks back on. But can you guys talk a little bit about the steps you're taking to reach people? B, you hit on it a little bit, but if you can get into a little more detail on how you're going to go about getting people to become part of this movement.
We started out online. We did the Facebook page. I've been busy, but I need to get back on Twitter and Reddit. And I just started, kind of sharing the Facebook page that you helped us create. And when we started getting some reactions online, that's when we took it, literally door to door. And I think that was kind of the plan. We're taking a couple weeks off to recover, and we're going to go back at it. And then we are either planning a barbecue for kind of the middle to late summer, or a few community meetings to invite people to. That way they can get used to the technology, and then they can ask questions. How much is this going to really cost me? Give them a chance to bring their bill to ask that question. And, how does this actually work? And who do I go for technical issues? Things like that. And
that's exactly right. I think our strategy is a little bit of, we want to exist in a digital space where people can find us. So that's social media. We also are reaching out to local business owners, community organizations, making connections, introducing ourselves, and seeing how we can help their mission. So kind of looking for the win-win for the whole community. And then, the door-to-door, the boots on the ground, that part is critically important. And we've been really excited to knock on some doors and meet people who have actually seen us online. And when you have that kind of interaction, that just really reinforces, the tangible, like the reality of the project in the minds of folks who live in the community. So I think for all those reasons, it's important for us to be reaching out kind of on those couple different levels.
I was wondering if you could share with us a couple of the stories of when you were canvassing, you met people that didn't have internet, and maybe a couple of those anecdotal types of things.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have to say first, I've been really surprised at the number of people we've met who don't have internet, or it's very slow internet, just absolutely horrible and not meeting their needs. I've been aware of, lack of internet in rural areas for a long time, but it has been just absolutely eye-opening to me how many folks in this incredibly urban area don't have access, or the access is inadequate. It's either it's out of their reach for one reason or another. So one of the folks we met was a gentleman who doesn't really use a lot of internet himself, but his grandkids come over and they use it, and they need it for homework and entertainment. And he wanted to be able to provide like a better experience for them and higher quality speeds. And it was important to their lives that the kids were able to get their homework done and, and yes, hop on and watch some Netflix. And he was pretty excited when we explained how it would work, and the fact that it would be controlled by the community. And that was just, really brought it home for me what a difference this will make in this family's life. Right now, their access is very, it's slow, it's minimal. And this, like he was explaining to us, this is going to be a game changer for them.
Very cool. Thank you for sharing. Oh, you're muted, Liz.
There we go. Yeah, it's having a little trouble clicking off the mute. Yeah, that's an amazing story. I can relate because my grandmothers don't have internet, and when I go to their house, I have trouble doing my work. So I think it's it's amazing what this can do for families. What have been some of the challenges or that you found, or have there been any? If you can talk about some of those. B or Ann, either one if you want to talk about them.
Honestly, the biggest hump that we've come into so far, and I don't even know if we've run into it quite yet, we just foresee it on the horizon, is funding. We're still working on getting funding models together, but everything else seems to be falling into place. Knock on particle board. In fact, it's rolling really well, like almost too well. The last canvassing day we did, we only did half the street, but it took twice as long because we were having such good conversations with people about their needs. Anne, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely share your optimism, and I'm also I'm not surprised at like this warm reception. Like I mentioned, I am so surprised that there's so many people who need the internet in an urban area. And I think that when you walk into a community where there's a real clear need, and there's folks who are ready and willing to participate, like they will just kind of open their arms. And I think that's what we're finding. In terms of challenges, what I would say to folks who are working on their own projects, are thinking of bringing internet to their community in the same way that we are similar, you've got to, the challenge is you've got to be ready and willing to really commit to some hard work. And this is a long-term project. And I think you play the long game and you look at this as an investment of 1 to 3 years of your life, like you're going to do great things. I think if you throw up a Facebook page and you just kind of hope people will trickle in, I think you're going to get different results. So I think that's the challenge here, is being committed and being realistic and understanding kind of your limits. B and I are taking a little bit of time off from canvassing. We really hit the streets hard for a couple of weeks. We have great results to show for it. And now we're going to take the next 2 weeks and kind of reabsorb our new prospects and cultivate people and follow up. So that's the challenge, is finding your rhythm, finding a sustainable cycle, and then understanding that your commitment is long-term, and just it really does require getting out and getting face-to-face with folks in the community.
Yeah, that's great advice. I mean, I think it's a marathon, not a sprint kind of advice, right?
Exactly.
We did get a question from the chat, and it's a bit of a long one and it has some technical. I will read it, and whoever wants to take it on our panel, it might be a little bit more. It's from Decentralist Dan at Hypha Lab. As far as challenges, how receptive are people users to the concept of using DAI or ETH or a stable coin? And how can we onboard them into that ecosystem as opposed to dollars, the dollar sign? Or are you guys also accepting US dollars?
So I think, I'd be happy to take that one, since I run the network in rural Oregon here, and we have about 40 users. And we are using ETH currently, and we have a wide demographic of people. We have lots of folks over 60, retired, younger people, and they're using primarily the Coinbase app to purchase ETH and top up their router. You can go to althea.org/top-up to kind of get a sense of what that process looks like. However, most people, from the end user's perspective, see it as simply just using an app on their phone, like you would with PayPal or something else like that. And it hasn't really been too much of a challenge to onboard that process. It's part of, like when we go and install the antenna, we'll also come and sit down and help them get their app on their phone, get it registered, go through all that process with them. But once the sign up period with Coinbase has been accomplished, then it's very easy to go ahead and just scan the QR code on the router to top up.
Got it. Cool. And people have been pretty cool with doing that. There hasn't been, no one's been like, oh my God, I don't, like, that's not a turnoff to people, you found?
We had one person that was a little bit, that we actually haven't set up on the network yet, who was a little hesitant, but one out of actually probably the hundreds of people that I've talked to was resistant to the idea of using digital currency. So pretty good results.
Yeah. Awesome. So, well, that's...
What was their objection?
Oh, yes, Jehan?
What was their objection, Deborah?
They were concerned. They had read some articles and had seen some news media that cryptocurrency was for, criminals, and they'd had, kind of bought into the hype around what exactly cryptocurrency was. Didn't have a real good understanding of that and wasn't really willing to go through any work to try to understand it any better.
Got it. Awesome. Cool. And I think, so that's about our time with B and Ann. Any last words? And then we're going to get into the more technical side of what we're going to talk about today. So B and Ann, any last words that you guys want to give us?
I think I would just leave folks with kind of a message of encouragement and excitement. It is so worth it to build and develop your community network. And I know that a lot of folks listening are probably a lot, further along than we are, or maybe have started. I just have to say, like, our partnership with Althea has been incredibly rewarding and supportive, and we are so excited for what this means, for Tacoma and beyond. And it really is life-changing. It's really a lot of fun and an honor to be a part of it.
We have run into with other projects, not us, but with with other tech projects, where people will have this mentality of, if they build it, people will come, and they'll just set their antenna up with some basic instructions and expect the revolution to happen, and it doesn't happen. For folks that are super into tech like I am and kind of on the shyer side, get you a friend that is loud and obnoxious and happy to be out there pounding the pavement with you, and lean on them. That's kind of how Ann and I work. They get their foot in the door, and then we start working off each other. You'll find a rhythm. Otherwise, your project's not going to get off the ground. You've got to have the people know about what's going on and work with you.
Awesome. Yeah, that's awesome advice. You guys have been great. So I know, Deborah, you have something to say.
You heard it here first, guys. Get you a loud and obnoxious friend. Success, which is, I think, maybe why I'm here.
Well, that's according to Deborah. All right, awesome, guys. We're going to get into the more technical side of things. So B and Ann, if you want to hang around and listen, that's great. If you guys have other things to do, feel free to hop off if you need to.
Okay, thank you so much.
It's going to get slightly more. Yes, thank you. So this is, Justin, I know, has something he wants to talk about that is very excited to talk about.
Lots of things. Unfortunately, I'm not allowed to go all day. I could rant for hours. But today we're going to talk about something interesting, particularly that we're getting our first sort of production here. Let me find the window here. Yeah, this is the right window. So we're getting our first production dual connection link. And what that means is that we get to use some of the meshing features that we've been designing and building and preparing for a long time. So here I have some diagrams and pictures, and this is a pretty old at this point diagram of the Clatskanie network. It's missing a lot of the newer members, but it has enough for me to explain what's going on. So we have the gateway here, which has a fiber connection, which is only on this side of the river. Well, it actually crosses the river like farther up here, but that's not relevant to this discussion because there's no good fiber here is the point. So the gateway has a great internet connection, and it beams it to these relays. And these relays let us reach other users that would otherwise be inaccessible. So there's a reason that Deborah chose Clatskanie, Oregon to build an Althea network, and that's because it's very densely wooded, and it's hard to get these line of sight connections to sort of work out. There's not good visibility from downtown, so it's because she can bounce to relays that things really work. Now, this is where some of Althea's fancier features come in. And we are setting up a new link, this one, that is essentially a connection between two relays. I think it's actually different relays than the ones on this diagram. We really need to update this. But the point is that this allows us to bring in some of the meshing and some of the automatic competition, as opposed to just being a cryptocurrency powered distributed automated ISP, which is already cool enough. But now we get to do the really cool stuff. So I mean, let's see. So this is sort of what one of the relays looks like. They have a connection going out to the gateway, and this little thing is a sector for a small number of users. So this has a 120-degree range of vision, and you can get 5 or 10 users on one of these. It's only about $130, and it'll provide a good experience for that many people. But you wouldn't want to load it with more people. So this is sort of what the gateway looks like, and it has one of these sectors. So it goes from this, like this sector to this antenna to this antenna to this antenna is sort of how you can think about it. And these two antennas bridge two relays. So let's say they bridge these two relays. What this means is that if either of these relays lose their connection to the gateway, all of these users, instead of just being offline, will go through the bridge, back to the gateway, out to the internet. Likewise with the reverse direction. And of course, the user in the middle gets a better connection themselves, because when both relays are active, which is how it's going to be 99% of the time, they will switch between connections based on which one has the most load and which one is performing the best. So what you could see, interestingly enough, is if this relay is experiencing less load than this link. So let's say all these people are streaming Netflix. These users may see their traffic migrate over to the other link, where they will be able to achieve better speeds. Or if there's like some trees in the way of this link or a bird or whatever, they'll migrate over to the other link, all instantly and automatically. So I'm really excited to see some of this stuff really working in production and to get a feel for how it's put together. What's actually funny is that we had the second antenna hooked up for a couple of minutes, but then we had to disconnect it so that we could route the cable. You see we have one cable routed here and not a second cable routed. Well, we didn't get the second cable routed yet, so it's only one of the antennas is online right now. But we already got a text message from the user last night that it's the best internet they've ever had, and they want it at their house now too. So yeah, that's always encouraging and something nice to hear. Let's see. I think that's about all the time that's been allotted. So look forward to beta 6 formats. Oh.
Two more minutes.
2 more. Oh, I thought I had 4. Anyways, so I thought I had 2, but I got hopeful there for a second. So look forward to beta 6, which is coming out hopefully later this week, or I guess next week now. And that's going to have some fixes for the issues I outlined in Dev Update 70. as well as some general improvements, including the first iteration of password setting for your router, so that you can actually prevent somebody from withdrawing ETH. That's not a problem because people don't share their Wi-Fi networks too often, but it's a feature we really wanted to get out the door. So that's coming with the next update, along with a relay management page to help relays sort of see the connectivity quality of all of their users and see who's and see who's online to help them manage that. So yeah, I'm going to hand it back over to Liz, and I'm looking forward to updating y'all more on how all this works out.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, definitely lots of, stay tuned for our development updates. Justin puts out really great ones almost a couple times a month on our blog, so you can check those out. And if you have any questions, if you're watching, feel free to pop them into the chat and I will relay them to the panel. And now Jehan is going to talk about all things, give us a little update related to Cosmos. And Jehan was just in Berlin. Can I say he was in Berlin? And he's going to be just talking about lots of cool stuff.
Yeah, how long do I have?
You have 10 minutes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I was recently just in Berlin for Interchain Conversations, which was a conference that Cosmos put on. And if you're not familiar with Cosmos, it's the blockchain platform that we're using to build Althea. Although currently Althea is running on Ethereum, that's causes a good amount of problems when the Ethereum network gets congested. Then transactions get slow and it can cause networking problems sometimes in our network. So the other thing is the fees. So on Ethereum, we pay about 5% of the overhead in fees, and that money's not going to any good use, in my opinion. It's going to miners, Ethereum miners, who are wasting electricity effectively with GPUs. Now, I guess some people feel that's not a waste, but I won't get into that argument. So anyway, but it's proof of work, and so that most people, I think, know the trade-offs involved with that. I won't go too much into it, but with Cosmos, basically what they do is it's a company that's launched a blockchain. Well, it's a nonprofit, actually, I believe, Swiss Foundation, but they've launched a blockchain and they've kind of made it into a development kit where you can develop your own blockchain using that technology. And the difference from something like Ethereum is so when we have the Althea, what they call it is a Cosmos zone. And we had that up and running. The difference from using Ethereum will be on Ethereum, we're kind of sharing the one Ethereum chain with a bunch of other projects, and the gas prices may spike. And then we're also paying the transaction fees to Ethereum miners using GPUs to burn electricity. And so with Cosmos, what we'll be doing is we'll have our own blockchain effectively. And the transaction fees will also go to people who hold Althea tokens, which are known as ALTG, is the abbreviation. So probably a good, I think we've talked about this in various other contexts, and we're going to have a more public announcement about it soon. But basically, you might be wondering, like, who are these ALTG holders actually getting the transaction fees? And how that's gonna work is that it's basically gonna be split into thirds. The entire token allocation, and 1/3 is going to go to investors, and 1/3 is going to go into a fund that will be used to fund development going into the future, into the next 5 to 10 years. And then another third is actually going to be going to the community. So it's sorry, I just got a text that distracted me. So going to the community means that we're going to be working on various granting programs, which are currently in the kind of stages of finalization right now. And so those are going to be granting tokens to people who are setting up networks locally. And the objective of this is number one, we obviously want a lot of what motivated us to do this project is we want a more community-owned kind of broadband solution, but also there's purely selfish motives as well, because having a good token distribution means that we'll have the people who are really doing good work and really know what's needed and stuff are going to be are going to basically be in control of the blockchain, receiving the benefits from all of the transaction fees on Althea network. So we ideally want most organizers, and certainly most organizers in the first few years, to get some of those tokens and to have a stake in the system as a whole. And we think that's going to make the system very healthy, and especially in comparison to regular ISPs where the users hate them. The employees hate them too, and so it's generally going to be a more healthy system, we think. So that's the overall plan. Another thing is that the people with the tokens, they also, in addition to getting the transaction fees, they can also control essentially upgrades to the blockchain software. And so they can, going forward, they can kind of decide, it's with a voting process. And you can see this actually playing out right now on the Cosmos Hub. And that's their main Cosmos chain. And so we think that's also a great way to govern things. Then where Cosmos comes in is the Cosmos Hub will allow zones on it, chains and zones on it. Their chains are called zones. It does allow them to, or not yet, but it will allow them to kind of, the hub is sort of a way for tokens to go through those zones into other zones. And so that's a way we can get dollars in there potentially, although we're going to start out by bridging to Ethereum to get DAI, which is a dollar pegged stablecoin on Ethereum. So that's basically the whole thing. When I went to Berlin, I talked to other projects in Berlin who are also working on different things. One of the projects was I worked with these guys on a hackathon project with them, which I'll say a little bit about later. But basically, Regen Network, they're creating kind of incentives for farmers in countries with a lot of rainforest to conserve the rainforest using a Cosmos blockchain. Another one is True Story. I worked with someone from the CTO of True Story as well, and on a hackathon project. And a lot of these other Cosmos projects, definitely they have similar motivations to us, where they want the sovereignty. They want the transaction fees on their blockchain to kind of go to their community, versus going to people who are using a lot of electricity on GPUs. So I thought it was interesting to get the other viewpoints. The other thing to know is that with Cosmos, if you have a tokens, you're not going to be running a validator yourself. Usually you delegate those to someone running a validator. I won't get too much into that here because that could go on for a long time. But basically, yes.
Oh, yeah, John, we have two questions from the chat. Okay. If you want to, the first one is from B, who was just on our panel, but he had this question come up locally about electricity usage, but can we touch on power consumption for the average relay or gateway access point? And he's still working on a layman's term for it. And then we have another one from Decentralist Dan too after that, which is, will it make sense for operators organizers to also hold ATOMs as well as ALTG? So both of those, one on power consumption, one on ATOMs and ALT.
I'll finish up the Cosmos thing here and also answer Decentralist Dan's question. I'll hand it off to Justin for the power consumption question. So
got it.
Basically, so atoms are the staking token on the Cosmos Hub. Now, it doesn't necessarily, whether or not you hold atoms is completely a matter of preference, and honestly, I think is a separate question from whether you have ALTG as an Althea organizer. Now, the Cosmos Hub will be getting transaction fees from blockchains that are using it as a medium of exchange between the blockchains. For instance, if we're getting stablecoins in through that mechanism, there might be some transaction fees that go from people, getting stablecoins onto our chain. But I think that's really a choice you have to make. I do think their technology is good, but it's not necessarily that related. That's one of the reasons we like it, is because we don't really have to worry too much about the Cosmos Hub. It's there if we need it, but it's not dictating everything our chain does. And so do your own research, I guess. I also wanted to mention I worked on a hackathon project, which was basically with the Regen Network guys, and also Shane, who's the CTO, or he works on True Story, which is a discussion forum thing. And we basically got smart contracts running on Cosmos. Not something we're going to use on Althea, but it was fun to do. And they were in Rust, but this gets very nerdy and technical. So I'll pass it off to Justin for the power consumption question.
Yeah, so the power consumption of Althea devices is pretty anemic overall. So if we take a look at this, oh man, this is stained from sitting on my desk. I can't put the bottom of that in front of the camera. Anyways, so the long story short, the GLs, which is what we normally recommend, draw about 4 watts idle. And the antennas also draw about 4 watts idle, including the ones that I just showed a few minutes ago. Now, the theoretical maximum power consumption of an Althea client setup is going to be about 48 watts, which is less than a light bulb, less than a particularly powerful light bulb at 48 watts. But I've never seen them maintain that. The most I've seen them maintain under load is about 20-ish total. Which would put it at something on the order of $1 a month in electricity, a little bit less, depending on how often you have it running. It's $1 a month if you do nothing but use your internet connection all day, every day. It'll be less than half that if you use your internet connection like a normal person does. So the power consumption is actually really good, as something we tried to optimize for. And you can't meaningfully make it any less. If you have a working internet connection right now, you're using about this much power already.
Awesome. All right, that's great. And I think, Justin, you answered within the chat another question about fees and token holders and all of that. You took care of that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so Ruruk was asking what the token holders are doing that's productive for the network. And in a proof of stake system, the token holders validate transactions. They use it by communicating amongst themselves rather than using a lot of power to produce cryptographic work, as in a proof of work system.
Great. And B in the chat had a great, for folks playing at home, it's like leaving a fluorescent bulb on, squiggle ones all day. There's the layman's term. Jehan, you had one last comment. We're about out of time, but Jehan,
yeah. I would also add, as far as what token holders are doing that's useful for the system, I think that another thing that they're doing is in the case of early organizers who are going to be receiving tokens, also investors and developers as well. They're developing the system and making it work. And so basically, it's going forward, and the fees are going to be set at a level that remains competitive if other similar systems come out. But it's basically a little bit like a business in that way. The blockchain system will be. So if people don't like that necessarily, all of our code is open source. So it's not going to be too hard for people to start their own Althea networks or not Althea networks necessarily, but Althea forks or clones that maybe have lower transaction fees. They're welcome to do that.
Awesome. And I think we're about out of time. I will let our panelists say one last word. We can start with Deborah and go Deborah, Jehan, and Justin, and then we're going to sign off. You can follow us. All the links are in the Althea links, and Twitter handles for everybody are in the description. I will add B and Anne's information in the description as well. So when you come back, I will have those added. And yeah, just reach out to us if you want to be an organizer, or if you want to learn more about the code and talk technical questions with Justin or Jehan. And if you want to be an organizer, reach out to Deborah. And if you just want to chat on Twitter with Althea, you can chat with me on Twitter. And I'll relay the messages to the team. And yeah, give us your last words, and then we're out of here.
Thanks, Liz. Yeah, I just wanted to also sort of wrap up by saying that we do have a few other Althea, what we call Althea hoods. It's just local organizations out there getting the word out about Althea and that their upcoming plans to start an Althea network. And you can find out more about those on the website. If you go to althea.org, you can see there's a list at the top of Althea hoods that have started. As Liz says, if you are interested in starting one in your neighborhood, give us an email, or there's a place to sign up as an organizer on the site as well.
Jehan?
I'll go next. I guess I thought Justin was gonna go, but I'll go. Yeah, last words. I don't know. It's a tough putting me on the spot here. I'm sorry.
Well, I'll save you there, Jehan.
You suggest for me, Justin?
Last words. Keep an eye out for Beta 6 coming out soon, as well as a video that I'm going to try and do about how our software queue mechanism makes traffic better. We'll see if I can manage to simplify that down to about a 5-minute video.
FQ Coddle is making a debut on video? That's amazing.
I don't think you're going to be able to get your FQ Coddle video down in 5 minutes, Justin.
So for reference, I am a Codal evangelist because it really is that good, but I will save my gushing for the video.
Awesome. That's great. And yet, our sign up for an organizer, if you want to be an organizer, is in the description of this video. And my cat is starting to bother me, so that's telling me that it's time to go. So we will see you next month. We will be here. And yeah, thank you. Thank you to everyone in the chat and everybody listening and watching. Bye.
Bye-bye.